Hello and welcome to Elseworlds, a DC fan podcast. My name is Jordan. With me, as always, is Chris. How are you today, Chris?
I'm doing very well. I'm doing very well. It's fun to talk about stuff. We have a lot going on the show, and it's just fun.
Yes, lots of news to talk about today here as we're going to start off pretty quickly here. I think we're going to go with the big ticket item first, which is The Batman Part 2 has been pushed a year. Um, this is from October. I forget when it was. October.
It was going to be October 25. Now it's going to be October 26th. The dates are kind of irrelevant for like the
Yeah,
specific day.
I guess I
Basically, you
can
got a
look because
year.
it would just be.
I think it's
It would always
October
be.
6th.
It would always be a Friday, so it would
Yeah.
be. It would have been October 3rd of 2025. It is now going to be October, I guess 2nd of 2026.
Hmm.
If we're looking at Friday release dates, which is usually what they mark those for.
Okay. I don't know why I had the 6th in my head.
I thought so too.
Um, I swear I had that in my head. But yeah, it's honestly my phone there. Yeah, it's kind of a bit of a tough pill to swallow, but we don't want to rush these movies. It's as simple as that.
Yeah, I just went and double checked. Those dates are right. The 3rd of October is what it was. It's now October 2nd. I'm guessing the 6th we're coming from 2026.
Mm.
Because I was thinking the same thing. I was thinking it went from the 5th to the 6th, but or vice versa. But it's actually just the year I'm thinking of.
That's interesting that we had the same thing in our heads. So that's
Yeah, it's a
weird.
Mandela effect, I guess.
Yeah, maybe.
um, Yeah, I kind of put out a tweet about this because I saw a lot of people, really struggling with this. I think I've seen a lot of overboard reaction to this as well. I would say,
Hmm.
no, I don't think this is getting canceled. Um, Look, Jeff Snyder, who is hit or miss, I would say at times, leave him or like take his information or don't. Here, take it with a grain of salt. He said it's mainly just because they were stalling so long that they don't have any like sound stages to actually film on right now. When it comes time to film, so it had to like push to when they can next availability get sound stages again for where they film this. So to me, that reads as um, maybe the script was taking longer. We do know Matt Reeves takes a while on on scripts, and I think he had Matt Tomlinson working on it with him. So there's some hints out there that the script is finished now. But they also were
Hmm.
wrapping up the Penguin. We did have, I don't know. A lot of people will say it was driving me crazy, Chris. People were like, "Well, it's going to take 4.5 years to get this movie. That's ridiculous." And it's not really. When you factor, we had 2 long strikes that took up almost all of 2023. The strike started in May, and the last one ended around like November. When you have the actor strike, that is 6 months of the year where you couldn't really work on anything. Like, yeah, I
Yep.
guess the writer strike ended more like, I don't know, October maybe, and then like a month later was the actor strike ending, but not,
Hmm.
and then every project trying to revamp, so that probably led to some of these sound stages getting snapped up pretty quickly because all these projects were kind of in development hell while the strikes were going on. So
Well, you
then,
had a logjam.
yeah,
It's as simple as that. And
logjam media,
yeah,
a
nice plug.
logjam of media.
It's as simple as that, and it stinks. But Matt Reeves takes forever. I don't actually understand why it takes you so long to write a script. To me, you either have an idea and you get it down on paper or not. But the kind of writer I am is where I like write too much all at once, and then I like have to like hack at it to like get it down to the core stuff. But so I don't actually understand why it takes so long to write a script. Not that I've ever written a movie script, not that I am a professional writer in the sense of Matt Reeves, who is very accomplished. I'm not criticizing him. I just don't get it. But then you have the writer strike on top of that. And we've been hearing speculation about different villains, different versions. I've heard speculation about the Penguin being delayed even more. So we'll see what happens. I'm glad that we are going to get the Penguin in between this because I think that's going to make this less of a weight. I think it's going to give us something to chew on. But you know, the DCU's kind of occupying my mental space, so I'm fine. If I didn't have the DCU to look forward to 2025, it would be a problem. But I have something to look forward to for 2025, and that's Superman.
Yeah, yeah. It's uh it's tough because I understand, and look, I am a fan of the Batman, so I was
Hmm.
really into that movie. And to be honest, I know we just hit the 2 year mark from when it came out. It doesn't feel like it's been that long already for me. I don't know if it's just because I'm getting older or if everything post COVID is just going so much faster, but um, it is like it was amazing to me that it's been 2 years. So when people say, "Oh, it's going to take us like 4.5 years between movies," I'm like, okay, so I only got another 2.5 years. That means we already have like halfway. Uh, and those 2 years flew by for me. And we have tons of good stuff coming up. We have Superman
Hmm.
in
Hmm.
2025. We have Joker Folie à Deux if you want your Batman fix, right? Like you're gonna get a Joker film this year. We will get the
Hmm.
Penguin sometime this year or next year. Um, so you'll still have that world of Batman. I don't know. I just think people were going way overboard with with like I gotta worry that this is not going to get made. It sounds like it's a
Hmm.
logistical issue. And then I see the other side of the conspiracy, Chris, where they're like, well, maybe it's delayed because they're trying to fit it into the DCU. From everything we know, Gunn approached Reeves to do that. He turned it down, and they're
Hmm.
keeping it separate as a Elseworlds.
I think the reason you're getting that speculation is because the Arkham Asylum show, is being worked into a DCU show instead of
Hmm.
the Batman verse show. And I think that's sparking the speculation. Like, if that piece of news didn't happen, I don't think any of the speculation would have. I think that's the kindling on the fire that kind of sprouted that up. I would
Yeah.
actually kind of be into the idea of making this the DCU Batman, but I don't think they're going to do that. And all signs say they're not going to do that because I actually, I was listening to DC Unlimited, and they were tossing this idea around, and they're going back and forth, and they kind of got me on board of like, oh, cool, I would like him in the DCU, but we do have to remember that Matt Reeves never intended for that to happen, and James Gunn has always said that the director is going to have say in this stuff. Creative freedom is something that he's very into, so I don't think James Gunn would hijack Matt Reeves unless Matt Reeves had a change of mind that is not public. I don't know what to tell you. There's nothing to go on for that. I think we're at a point where, as long as we're waiting, we're speculating. I think we need some concrete details about it, but if the script's not even done, we're not going to get concrete details. You saw with James Gunn, the second we start getting little tidbits of Superman news and Creature Commandos news and Waller and Peacemaker news, it becomes real, and you do a little less speculating, a little less fan casting, a little less guessing. So until we get to a point where the Batman 2 is real, not that it isn't, it's fair game.
Yeah. Yeah. I just, it is something that like I just want to make people aware of. Like, don't freak out. When they launched this universe, Gunn made sure to say like there will be Elseworlds titles like
Mhm.
the Batman from Matt Reeves. I don't think they're about to backtrack that on that and be like, actually, we're canceling it completely.
Well, that
I
would be
do
a
think,
nightmare.
well, I do think that whether I'll say I don't think Reeves has carte blanche to do whatever he wants. I think he has part two. I
Hmm.
think that might be it. I really do. I think it might be a duology plus Penguin, and if they do a Clayface thing, like I don't think we're getting a part three because maybe we will, but I do think it'll be tougher to have the two Batman overlapping. And if it, let's say, I don't think they can push up Brave and the Bold if it's if it's a logical issue like the sound stages, right? Like that
Hmm.
to me makes it seem like we can't just move up Brave and the Bold then, which means that's going to get pushed back as well. So in my mind, now this issue might work itself out to where again part 3 might be another 4 years after 2026. It might be wrapping up
Hmm.
in 2030,
Yeah.
and then you do have Brave and the Bold between 2026 and 2030. Fine. It depends on how fast Reeves is going to go. That's another good thing about him not being part of the universe is he can just take his time on it. There's
Hmm.
no rush. You don't have Gunn being like, "Well, I need to use Batman in Justice League, so I need you to wrap this up as soon as
Yep.
possible." And the Arkham show thing that you brought up, I think it makes more sense that it was a DCU show than a Reeves show anyway for the Reeves verse because who has he fought? The Riddler and
Yeah.
gangsters. Like who else are you
Hmm.
highlighting in Arkham right now? Because even Joker's not Joker yet. So that would be a tough show to do from the Matt Reeves Batman because there's just not a lot of villains he's faced to even do that. It makes more sense for it to be a more senior Batman that's already has Damian,
Hmm.
So I think that's great. I think it's good that he wants to work with Gunn in that regard, but because it was originally I think an idea Matt Reeves pitched. But I just want to kind of like quell the alarm. I feel like too many people are too alarmed on this. So hopefully I was able to help with that. I just don't think it's going to be anything to worry about other than if it was a real issue, they would have not dated it. They would have said
Hmm.
this is getting pushed to who knows when,
Indefinite.
and yeah, then we would stop hearing progress on it. The fact that it has a date is still good news.
To me, James Gunn and Matt Reeves worked a promise out, and I feel like they have a deal. They know the parameters of their deal, and maybe that has to be reworked a little bit for the DCU in the sense of not stepping on James Gunn's toes. But I truly think the number one thing fans should get out of this conversation is it doesn't have much to do with the DCU. Calm down. The DCU is a completely different thing. Elseworlds titles exist. Matt Reeves takes forever, and there was a strike. Those are the bullet points to this conversation. And if you're taking anything out of the conversation other than that, we're we're just getting into fan fiction at that point. It could be anything. I feel like if you're very protective of the Batman franchise, and I kind of am, I can see you getting defensive. There's nothing to be defensive about. There's no reason to think we're not getting the Batman Part 2. And it probably is better that it's just a duology, as you said, because the Brave and the Bold and all this stuff has to start going. And you don't want competing Batman, really. You kind of want to like to have a chapter. The only thing that stinks about that is I could have Robert Pattinson be Batman forever. So that's that's the only
No,
problem with that.
Batman Forever is the one with
Val Kilmer.
Val Kilmer.
I
Yes.
Yeah, yeah. I have to watch what I say on this podcast because we have a wordsmith over there just
Well,
waiting.
I would take like you said as much Batman as I could from Reeves and Pattinson, all that stuff.
Mm.
I would also take having dueling Batman. The issue is the general public might get a little bit more confused by that.
You know what I would
And
love?
that's the issue.
I would love when they're making this movie, the Batman Part Two. I'd love if they just did like little shorts with little battles for Batman with villains, and they just kind of released them as like, hey, we don't really have a trailer yet. This doesn't have anything to do with the movie, or maybe even after the movie, but just little like 10, 15 minute clips of Pattinson's Batman. I'd be down for that. I don't think I've ever seen someone do that. I just think that's a
Hmm.
cool idea. Like, I just want more Batman. Like my biggest problem with the Dark Knight trilogy is that Christian Bale's Batman had 3 battles and that's it. And he took a long pause in
An
between being
8-year
Batman.
break. An
Yeah.
8-year break after being Batman for like a year.
So that's my biggest problem with the Dark Knight trilogy. Let's be honest, I'm gonna get that same problem with the Batman world. He's going to have, you know,
No, I don't think you will. I don't think you will. You might only see those, but I
mhm,
think unlike The Dark Knight Rises, I don't think they'll write it to a point of like he's hanging up the cape. I think if they wrap it up in part 2 or a part 3, you would see some sort of growth with the character, but not necessarily a he's hanging it up.
right,
And then it'd be cool, like at least we do know he's interacted with Joker before. We didn't see it. He's not Joker fully, but like he's interacted with Barry Keoghan's character before, right? So like he does have that history there that I feel like the Nolan Batman doesn't, because it seems like everything he's done is just those movies and they don't really allude to a lot of
mhm.
outside stuff.
Yeah, I wish that that Joker scene was in the Batman part, the Batman first one. I really do. I've tossed and turned on that, but I think I'd like that to be in the movie because, like, you and I are going to remember that deleted scene for the rest of our lives. Most people are going to be like, "What? Barry Keoghan Joker? Never seen it."
I mean, he's in the real movie too, and he alludes to
Yeah, a
history in
little
the real
bit,
movie.
a wee tiny bit.
Yeah, because I mean, I've only watched that scene like once, so I'm more thinking of like the actual film when he's just talking to Riddler and kind of inferring there's a history between him and Batman.
I've watched that scene a lot more than once. I must admit. I was trying to decide if I liked it as a take on the Joker. Like I am very infatuated with it. I think it's interesting. It kind of reminds me of Lee Bermejo's Joker where he just looks disgusting.
Hmm.
So like just he looks horribly scary and just almost got a Two-Face vibe to it because it's like just the way like his face is just icky. Like yeah. I love that aesthetic. Joker should always make me unhinged. Like he should always make me scared. Um, like deep down inside, be like, oh
That's
god.
where I do disagree. I do think like once I just want to see purple suit Joker,
But my purple suit Joker would still scare the living daylights out of you.
but like I think he can look normal, just like dyed skin. I don't think he needs to look like New 52, face stretched over, scary.
All right. Well,
You know what I'm saying? Like I don't
yeah,
know.
you
When I
don't
think of
like
like
Death of
the
the
animated
Family
series,
Joker
no, I think he looks grotesque, and I don't think
with
he needs to. I
with the
think he can just.
bugs around his torn off face. Yeah.
Yes, no, no,
I'm about it. I like it.
no. I mean, I don't know. The Joker I think of is like, well, I always kind of think of animated series Joker, but even if you think of like Arkham Joker from the games, he kind of uh is a little rougher looking than the animated series one, but
You
he's
know,
other than
the,
being sick, right? He
right.
doesn't have like this weird look.
So the difference between the Arkham thing is his suit is like dirty and textured. Like it's not
Hmm.
like this shiny purple. It's like this beat up purple.
Yeah,
And think if you're gonna do live action, that would be the Mark Hamill translation. But I, I gotta tell you, with the Joker, I like pretty much everything I've gotten. Like honestly, my least favorite Joker, very unpopular opinion, is Jack in the first one. It's not my thing. And Batman 1989. I I feel like it's the least exciting Joker.
yeah. We don't have to get into my least favorite, but
Yeah, we know it. It's gonna get the show
actually,
canceled
no.
one of
My
these
least
days.
favorite is Jared Leto. That
Oh,
is my
fair
least
enough. Fair enough. Yeah, I feel like that's everybody's least favorite. I don't even count that, to be honest with you. Like,
Yeah.
because the first Suicide Squad movie, I can forget about even existing in my head.
Yeah, but
It's
he's also in Zack Snyder's Justice League, and he has the most worthless part with
But
like the
see,
worst
here's the
line.
thing. I've watched
Sneak
Zack Snyder's
around.
Justice League.
Ugh.
I've watched Zack Snyder's Justice League 5 times, and after the second time, I just
That's
stop.
20 hours. I
I,
cannot.
I understand, but I just stop like before that stupid epilogue scene.
Yes, that's where he should have stopped.
No, that's exact. So my biggest gripe with Zack Snyder is that epilogue scene because that was just like, come on, that's almost like giving a middle finger to everyone who hates your stuff in the first place. I hated that scene. I hate that scene. I love Zack Snyder's Justice League. It's one of my favorite movies of all time. But I've watched it 5 times and it's 4 hours. I I've done my work on it, but
I got two complaints with that. I've got the epilogue and the aspect ratio.
that's fair. The
I
aspect
hate it
ratio
being
is
in
fair.
4:3. I hate it being in 4:3. I just do.
I I don't know. Have you ever watched Justice is Gray?
What, the one where they do it over again in black and white?
Yeah.
No, I've watched this movie once,
Okay.
and that
Justice
was
is Gray
enough.
is pretty cool. Justice is Gray is pretty cool. I what's weird about Justice is Gray is the aspect ratio doesn't really bother me in that, but in the full color one, it kind of does.
Yeah, I know for some people, for some reason, people really like 4:3 aspect ratio, and I don't understand it because to me, I don't want to see the bars on the side of my screen,
Yeah.
and I don't have a 4:3 television. Nobody does anymore.
Right.
Just make. I wish he had come out with a version that had the regular aspect ratio. Then I could watch that. That's one of the reasons I don't rewatch this movie. As sad, I mean, as
Uh,
weird as that sounds, I just can't. One, it's too long. Then you have the aspect
it's not
ratio,
too
and then you
long.
have
It's
the epilogue.
perfect. It's glorious. I love it.
Ugh.
It's too long because the epilogue exists. Other than that,
It's just too long in general. I mean, it tells the same story as Justice League, which did it in 2 hours. So
but
tighten it up.
it's a lot better than Justice League. Like a lot
Marginally
better,
better.
incredibly better. We've always known that I like Snyder's work a lot more than Jordan.
Yes.
Uh, I have my gripes with it, but I defend it a lot more than Jordan. Do we want to talk about Zack Snyder's horrible Batman comment?
Not really. Not really. I
Okay.
mean, I, if people didn't see it, he just pretty much said that it's more exciting to make a character break that one rule than it is to follow the rule.
And I have
Which
a
to me
problem with
shows
him on
just
that
that
one.
uh,
Yeah.
which shows to me that he just doesn't understand these characters. And the way that they gave this guy the keys to everything is just absolutely shocking,
Hmm.
in my opinion. I like Man of Steel. I don't love it, but I like it, and it's a good starting promise. But the fact that he then, I feel like Man of Steel doesn't even tonally match BVS and the rest of his movies.
So BVS, we know we've hashed that out, but I love Man of Steel. I love Zack Snyder's Justice League. At BVS, I will always be mixed on. It's I'm never not going to be mixed on it. But what I will say about Zack Snyder's trilogy is it was always a big lie because it was a 5 movie arc, and then he was going to say somebody else do this. So and Flashpoint was going to reset it. That was the plan the whole time, and we built it up as a cinematic universe trying to catch up with Marvel. So they got criticized for doing something they really weren't even trying to do. The studio was trying to do it. Zack Snyder never was. And I think Snyder got the brunt of that, which is hilarious because after WB got all the karma they could have ever asked for with having more failure on their hands. But, you know, eh, how many regimes of Warner Brothers do you have to go through? I mean, we really just have to hope DC Studios works out. I'm telling you.
Yeah. Yeah. And I saw some people say, like, why are we still talking about this? It's been years. He's been gone for 4 years, since Zack Snyder's Justice League. And before that, he's been gone for like 7 years. You count Justice League.
Right.
The reason people still talk about this is because, and the reason this is still being talked about right now is because that decision to give him this and to have his take be the start of a universe has had tremendous backfire and downfall since that we are still dealing with
Yep.
as of this day until Superman comes out next year.
You're not wrong.
So that is why we're still talking about it until they give us something else to talk about. I mean, this universe he started just wrapped with Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom as they continued to try to pivot and fix the mess from BVS's Fallout in
Hmm.
2016. So to me, if you're asking why are we still talking about this, he's been gone. One, it's because he's making these, he's talking about it still, and two, his fans are not shutting up about it, and three, we're still dealing with the fallout until next year when Superman launches. So I don't think it's that shocking to be talking about it still, honestly. Is it
I agree.
exhausting? Yes, it is exhausting, but
Well,
we're still feeling the repercussions.
we're also talking about it because Snyder chose just about every controversial, polarizing decision he could choose. The Martha scene in BVS. I get it because uh, it's humanizing Clark to Batman. I get that. I actually get the scene, but it's never not going to be a meme. The Jonathan Kent in the tornado. Uh, my problem with that is pretty simple. Clark Kent would never do that. Clark Kent would never just say, "Okay, okay, Pa, you're right, Pa. The world's not ready for me, Pa." He would
The
argue
whole
with him the whole way.
the whole thing of what Jonathan Kent's death is supposed to mean. If you look at
Yeah.
Superman 78, the movie, it is
Hmm.
supposed to be that he cannot save everyone. It is a health issue. It is
Yeah.
not like a tornado, he can save him. Like that's what is so
He chose to
mind-boggling
let
about
his
it.
he chose to let his father commit suicide.
Yeah.
It's assisted suicide. It's dumb. It's a problem. Now, I have less of a problem with General Zod's neck snap. I have a less of a problem that than most people do. But because I always think Superman it was put in a situation where even if he can stop Zod from killing this family, the Phantom Zone's like kind of done, like because it was on the part of the ship or something, right? And then he can't like what's going to contain Zod? Like he will never not be
Yeah.
a problem.
Well,
It's
and
kind
I
of
think we talked about that on our Man of
yeah.
Steel thing, and I pretty much just said, but that is the writer putting them in that position, right?
No,
Like,
I
I mean,
I
yeah. So,
get
like,
it, but
yeah,
even if he
there
doesn't
is
kill the
issues with that.
family, even if he stops him from killing the family, Zod's not going to just be like, okay, you win. I you know, they needed a way to depower Zod or to trap Zod, and they didn't have it with that script. And
Yeah,
that you can be angry about if you're a fan. I get that, but like, I don't think I think Snyder gets Superman to a point, but Clark would never let his father die. I can't get past that. I cannot get past it. I will never get past it. I love Man of Steel. I hate that scene. Every time I watch that scene, I pause the movie, I go to the bathroom and regroup because I can't do it. I I've watched Man of Steel enough. So here's the problem. Zack Snyder movies get better every time you watch them because you gain appreciation for things you didn't think about the first time. At least that's how I do it. But you know what? If you have to watch a movie multiple times to get it, there's a storytelling flaw. I defend Zack Snyder because I love Zack Snyder's work. Because Man of Steel was a movie that meant something to me. Because BVS, I will tell you, that fight scene with Batman and Superman with the kryptonite grenade, and I bet your mom and dad told you you were special. You know, I learned a different thing from my parents. That's a great moment in comic book movies. I want you to know the one man who beat you for the Dark Knight Returns line. By the way, the only comic book Zack Snyder has read. I'm convinced of it. Only comic book he's read. I am 100% convinced of it. But I, I love that scene. I love that scene. I think it's awesome. The warehouse scene with Batman, awesome. There are so many good things. I love Batman. I love Ben Affleck as Batman. I love Ben Affleck as Batman. I love it. I honestly wish we just got more Ben Affleck as Batman. But like, Man of Steel is a movie. I literally I have the hardest time with because I love it, and people just don't get it because of the stupid tornado scene. Take the tornado scene out of it, I think everything's fine. The tornado scene sucks. It's horrible. Get it out of there. It's a great movie. It's a good movie. Could have been great.
All right, we'll move on. We
All
got some
right.
Superman news. Wendell Pierce is Perry White. So for all those people that were like, "Hey, call me when they'll cast Superman characters," we're calling you now, letting you know that they have cast a Superman character called Perry White. So Wendell Pierce, I'm not too familiar with him. You know what I know him from mostly is I think Horrible Bosses. He plays a cop in Horrible Bosses,
Mm-hmm.
but I know he's in The Wire. He's in Suits. I
Suits.
know
I
you
know
were
him from
watching
Suits.
Suits. Yeah.
I think me and the rest of the country was watching Suits that summer. I don't know what it
Yes.
was. Like, and I feel a little annoyed with myself because I usually don't give in with the trend, and that time I did. But he was awesome in Suits, man. I really like he played a very Perry White like character. He's stern, sarcastic. Honestly, Lawrence Fishburne and him, I can see them as similar Perry Whites. I think he has less gravitas than Lawrence Fishburne, but every human on the earth does, other than maybe Morgan Freeman and like maybe a Michael Caine. Like just there's so few people who have that level of gravitas. Um, but I think this is a really good casting. You know, he looks good in a suit, and he's just that wisecrack in Suits. He's this wisecracking um, guy who's smarter than everybody in the room, and he knows it. And I love that. I love that he knows he's the ace in the hole. He gets it. I like this casting. The second I saw it, I was like, why didn't I think of it? So I have no problems with the casting.
Yeah, no, I think it's a great casting just from what I know about him, but it seems like everybody's really excited about him. So that's great. James Gunn confirmed it recently. Um, so yes, we have our Perry White. Filming also started recently in Norway. For the Fortress, we kind of talked about with the suit thing, but they confirmed it was Norway, and I think James Gunn talked to like a local outlet about how it was for the Fortress. A little other tidbit we got was that Tom King was one of the first three people to read the script and give notes. So
That
that's
makes sense.
pretty
He's on the
interesting.
Council of Gun. That makes sense.
Yeah, yeah. And he did write Up in the Sky, which I read after learning about that this week or last week. I went and read Up in the Sky, which was a good story. It actually made me tear up a little bit.
I'll have to check
Um,
that out.
yeah, some of it's a little off, right? Like some of it's a little odd, I would say, but it is the heart of the story is really really good by Tom King. And then
I'm
Nick,
really liking Tom King's Wonder Woman run.
that's right.
Really,
Yeah,
I'm really into that run. I think that is an awesome run.
we also had Nicholas Holt on Inside of You, which
I
is the
listened
Michael
to it. It was
Rosenbaum.
great.
Yeah, he went and said that that was like the first iteration of Lex he saw, and that he shaped his Lex after All Star Superman Lex. That there's a line
Hmm.
about how his muscles are real compared to Clark's, who are compared to Superman's, who is an alien and gets the yellow sun. So
Hmm.
I think if that's the Lex we get, that's going to be really really cool. So hopefully,
He
I'm just
gets it.
glad. Yeah, it
Yeah.
seems like he gets it.
Hmm. Yeah, he gets it, and I don't think we're gonna get a copy of any of the Lexes we've gotten, which is cool.
Hmm.
I really enjoyed it. He seems like a cool guy. I mean, obviously, we're all familiar with him from something, but I really like Nicholas's like I'm on a first name basis with Nicholas Holt's just demeanor. It seemed like he really held up well to the questioning, and it was a fun little chat with Rosenbaum. So I really like the Inside of You podcast. I don't listen to everyone. Like if there's a guest on that, I'm like, yeah, I need to hear that. But Michael Rosenbaum's probably going that podcast probably going to be a huge thing for DCU talk going forward because he's a friend with James Gunn. He's had James Gunn on before. He's had Nicholas Hoult on. I wouldn't be shocked if he had like Rachel Brosnahan on or something at some point.
He
You know,
usually tries to get like he's gotten his Smallville guests, he's got
mhm.
Arrowverse guests. He gets some of those people in that nerd corner because he knows his listenership, probably found
Yeah,
him from Smallville,
Smallville.
and
Yeah,
he kind of, plays into that a bit.
absolutely. That
All
is
right,
cool.
Alan Tudyk was talking some creature commandos at, I guess, a convention at MegaCon in Orlando. And he said it is maybe one of the best things he's ever read. He said, I'm doing Creature Commandos, which James Gunn wrote, and it's going to be the first thing DC does with him at the helm, and it's animated. I am Dr. Phosphorus. He's so cool. The whole thing, this is Creature Commandos. I look at one sheet and it's like Frankenstein's in there, some chick with her, like she's got a fish head, she's got water on her head. And I'm like, where do all of these people and how do they fit together? This looks bad, maybe. And then I'm like a guy who looks a lot like Ghost Rider, but it's not. It's Dr. Phosphorus, it's DC, and it's the best thing I've ever read.
That sounds like a blast. It sounds like a James Gunn thing I've ever heard of it.
Yes, yeah.
It sounds incredibly early days of Guardians is kind of what it sounds like.
And then we had some updates with filming for Peacemaker and Waller. There's rumors that Peacemaker and Waller are filming this year, but apparently somebody asked Robert Patrick and he said June for Peacemaker. And then Gunn confirmed that is correct when and Jennifer Holland, his wife, was asked about it, and she said they were filming in the summer. Um, he put together a really funny thread about it though, where he's like, "The source is iffy on this," talking about his wife. He's like, "But this is true." Um, yes, we will be shooting Superman and Peacemaker simultaneously. Yes, I've written all the episodes, but no, in the interest of getting the show out there, I won't be able to direct them all, only some. Waller is still happening. Jeremy and Crystal are hard at work at writing great stuff, but the schedule was impacted by the strikes, so it will now come after Peacemaker.
Nice. And I think it's supposed to continuity wise be after Superman, Peacemaker season 2.
Yes. Yes, he had some responses there when people were asking him about that. Now, I feel like I understand why people are confused, I guess. But I really think it's much easier than we all think. Okay? They said, "Is Peacemaker season 1 canon?" He said no, right?
Hmm.
And that confused people. But uh he said many strands will remain consistent as insofar as Peacemaker story goes. So here's what happened. He probably still kills Flag.
Hmm.
You still get Peacemaker, what a joke. Did the Suicide Squad fully happen that way with Harley and all them? Maybe, maybe not. We'll find out if any of that's even worth
Right.
knowing. But I say everything that happened in season 1, except for references to the Justice League and seeing the Justice League at the end, is canon to season 2. I think that is the easiest thing. He did like some people's responses to him that pretty much said that, like, hey, pretty much everything's the same except for just like remove the Justice League and it still all makes sense. And he
And most of them were
liked
silhouettes
their
anyway. Hey, it's not that big of a change.
yeah, yeah, yeah. But whatever. I mean, at this point, we don't know if the Justice League's together in the DCU. So again, like jokes about Aquaman,
Uh-huh.
you know, having sex with fish or whatever.
And that was the only reason the Justice League was there was to complete that joke. That's really
Yes,
all the
yeah,
reason they were there. Like all you needed was Barry and Aquaman. That's it. honestly, you could have just gotten it with John Cena and Aquaman if you really wanted to get rid of Barry. Like all they wanted to do was the fish fucking joke. That's it.
Yeah, so I think he said you'll pretty much be able to tell when season 2 comes out. So in my opinion, most things are going to be the same. We're just going to have little things like that don't actually affect the main plot. And the reason why is because, and I know people said, well, they should have just reboot it fully. There's a reason they couldn't. Peacemaker was a huge hit on Max.
Hmm.
Uh, that warranted a second season. Then that was already renewed before this whole restructuring came. So then he had to kind of retrofit it into it, but also you need season 2 to be accessible to people that watch season
Yep.
1. So you can't have it delete everything, but you also don't want it to. I think there'll be minimal connection between Superman and Peacemaker. I doubt there will be much big connection in that. So whatever. I think this is probably the last season of Peacemaker we get anyway.
But Jordan, they're not actually telling the Superman story. It's going to be a story about all of the engineer and Mr. Terrific, and it's not going to be a Superman story, Jordan. Can you tell
Yes.
I'm
Yes.
joking? Cool. Yeah, I think you're 100% right there. I think it reminds me a lot of the Arrowverse crossovers thing, where it was like contractually you couldn't just put them together. Contractually, you really kind of have to have a Peacemaker season 2 at this point. Like it's a mess if you don't. And honestly, I think he still wants to do it. Like I think he really loves that project. That's a passion project for him. I think actually, I think that's actually James Gunn's weakness is everything he does is a passion project, but it's also a strength. So it's pretty cool. That man works hard. It's like that Hamilton song. How do you write? Like you've done it out of
Yeah, yeah,
time.
yeah.
How do you
You
write?
know, I just it's amazing. This DCU right now, like if they had wanted to put Reeves Batman in here, or if they
Hmm.
had wanted to not give it to James Gunn, they would still have like no content ready because nobody works like James Gunn.
Yep.
So he wrote Superman. He's getting ready to direct Superman. He wrote all of Creature Commandos. He wrote all of Peacemaker season 2 and will direct some of those directly after he's done directing Superman. He's giving you 3 shows, like
Hmm.
three projects that he is ready to rock on, and he's overseeing Waller with another crew. Nobody else is that ready. Like it's taking, like we said, 4.5 years for them
Yep.
to get Batman Part 2. So if you had given it to anybody else, we'd be stuck in this never-ending cycle
Hmm.
of a mess. And you give it to Gunn, who just churns out project after project after project, and all of a sudden you're getting content. Uh, Again, shouting out to Stephen Amell's thing of like, where is it all? Well, James is writing all of it. He's directing all of it, and it's coming soon.
God, Stephen Amell.
There were strikes. All right.
Yeah. Well, I'm really excited about the DCU. So we're basically let James cook, guys.
Yes.
It's not to be confused with James Cook, the running back. Let James cook, guys. I'm very excited about it. Yeah, I I think James Gunn is going to knock this out of the park, and I think the people who are worried about the 4-year contract need to chill a little bit because I think he's putting out content, setting up all the routes, and then basically at the end of 4 years, he can either decide to leave or he can say, "Are you really going to get rid of me? Look, I got everything going."
Yeah, and I don't think he would actually leave. I think he's having a ball. I think the 4-year contract is more of a WB thing of,
Hmm.
we have a 10-year plan with James Gunn, but if this thing doesn't take off in these first 4 years, we're pulling the plug and we're going to start over. They need,
They
there
need
ain't
to
no way.
stop starting over though. Like I don't, I don't know. It's not quite like the Sonyverse where they're putting out horrible product and it's just damaging the brand, where they're damaging the brand in another way. Like this is, they need to stop starting over.
But I can't blame them. Like if let's say if none of these projects take off in the first a bit of the DCU, you can't keep going with it.
I don't know if this doesn't work, you might just have to put me on suicide watch. If Superman does not hit with the general audience, I will be crushed. And I don't say crushed, I say crushed. Like
Hmm.
it'll hurt because I guarantee you, I guarantee you, it's not going to be a bad movie.
Right, right.
there's just no reason to think it would be a bad movie. Like it might not be your cup of tea, but I guarantee you, James Gunn's going to put something out that he can be proud of. That's what he does.
Yeah, yeah. No, I think I think it'll hit. I think it'll land. But if it doesn't, like, I don't blame WB for having an out. And then if that happens, you're just gonna get a lot of Batman and Joker movies, and that's gonna
And
be
I
all you
can
get.
work with that, to be honest with you. I really can. Give me all the Batman and Joker that you can give me. And if that means Robert Pattinson gets to be Batman forever, that's a that's a deal I can accept.
All right. Was
Maybe
there
begrudgingly, but
any other big news that we didn't mention here before we wrap it up?
no, I think we can start talking somebody save me in there.
Yeah, so we're gonna jump over and we're gonna wrap this one up at elseworldsdcfan on all of our social medias. But we're about to go do our Smallville update on Chris's progress of Smallville. So make sure you check that out if you are a fan of that. But we're probably releasing what I'm going to probably do. If we have two of them, depending on how long we talk about season 3 and season 4,
Uh-huh.
um, and depending how I'm gonna cut that up. But for sure, it's going to drop next week while I'm on vacation. So that way we have an episode while I'm out. And this episode I'm trying to put up like tonight, if possible. So that's the way I'm kind of going to try to edit these things. We also have our comic book couples draft that we just launched with Ryan Airy. That was a crossover with To the Infinity Saga and Beyond, our Marvel podcast, because it was any of those, Marvel, DC.
Hmm.
Ryan pulled out some ones that we did not know that are not either of those publishers. So make sure you check that out. And then coming up, I'm not sure when I'm dropping this one either, but we will have a draft for International Women's Month, right?
Yeah.
Which is this month of March, and we are going to be uh, drafting, like, I guess, best women in comics, characters in comics, uh, and we have a special guest for that too. So make sure you check that out. That'll be
Hmm.
coming down the pipe sometime soon. So check that out. Yeah, so thank you all for watching and listening. Share your thoughts on any of these Batman or Superman news items that we shared. Also, rate and review us on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. And you can like and subscribe to us here on the YouTube channel. Have a great rest of your week, and we will catch you next time.